Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another episode on my comic book process. I am now on book 3 of the Tales from the Void, which is my series of short anthology collection comics based on the stories of Philip K. Dick, who was the writer of Blade Runner and Total Recall. His stories are really trippy and really out there, and so I've been taking these and turning them into comic books. And today I'm going to be showing you a little bit about my process. Real quick, just to let you guys know, if you're interested in checking out the comic, the first 2 issues are in the link in the description below. They're free to download. And I'm having a lot of fun figuring out how to do this. So the first thing it is that I like to do as I'm setting up this third comic, which this series of videos is going to be following me completing this third book, which is going to be a little bit shorter than the previous ones. This one I'm aiming for about 16 to 20 pages just to get it out there as quickly as I can. The first thing it is that I like to do, which you're seeing on the screen right now, is I like to thumbnail out the story. Now the story for this comic is called The Golden Man, and it's basically like an X-Men type story, very similar to X-Men actually. And since Philip K. Dick was, he was around during the 60s and 70s, I'm pretty sure that this story had an impact, or it was an inspiration for Stan Lee to create the X-Men, because the stories are very similar. It takes place after an atomic war, and people have these different powers and whatnot. But it's also like really trippy and psychedelic, so that's what I like about it. Anyway, what I like to do is that I like to go through the comic, the pages that I'm going to do, and I like to do these little rough thumbnails that you're seeing here on the screen. Basically, the story here is that this investigator who's hunting down these X-Men type characters shows up at this guy's farm because he suspects that this guy is harboring one of these mutants, right? So the story, you can get into that in the first issue because there's going to be multiple issues for The Golden Man, because it is a little bit of a long story, but you can find that in the description below. Right now though, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my process for what it is that I'm doing in this comic. So the first thing it is that I want to mention is that anytime it is that I complete one of these comics, I like to go through and assess them and figure out, like, what is it that I did that I liked, what do I need to improve, and then I try to base the comic around how can I make improvements for that specific thing, right? So one of the weaknesses that I came across whenever I did my second comic was that my backgrounds just were not very good. So with this comic, I wanted to focus on specifically looking at the weaknesses it is that I have in my skill set and trying to base what it is that I'm going to do with this comic off of getting better at that specific thing. So in order to remedy this situation, what I decided to do was I decided to incorporate Blender into what it is that I do. And that's what you're seeing on screen right now. What you're seeing is a very basic setup in Blender. And what I'm doing is I am taking some free 3D models that I have found off of TurboSquid, and I'm using them to set me up with some basic landscapes, some basic background art that I can use and take screenshots of, and then bring those into my actual work file. So what you're looking at here is you're looking at a farm model house, but you're also looking at a car model as well. And right now I'm just moving the camera around the scene and looking and seeing what kind of shots it is that I want to get. Now, if you're not familiar with Blender, I would suggest going and just looking up some basic stuff on Blender. If you're really genuinely interested in hearing like a breakdown of how to move the camera and whatnot, I think there's a lot of other Blender artists out there that would help a lot more than I can. So that's a little bit beyond the scope of what it is that we're trying to do here, but you really don't need to know how to model. You really don't need to know much when it comes to Blender. Really, it's just about understanding how to move things around, how to scale things, and move things around in the environment. And you can see here I'm moving around the placement of these different elements it is that we have, and I'm looking for my shot. What kind of perspective is it that I want to get? What do I want my screenshot to look like? Because the screenshot it is that I'm going to do is I'm going to then take that and bring that into Clip Studio, right? So as we're looking at this right here, you can see that I've come across a screenshot, and I've got something set up here that I'm pretty happy with. And so I went ahead and turned on the camera, and when I turn on the camera icon, it gives me basically a viewfinder, and from that viewfinder I can take a snapshot at that 16:9 ratio that gives it that cinematic feel to it, right? So I take a screenshot of this, and after I've taken a screenshot of this, I'm now going to take this into into Clip Studio, and I'm going to show you how it is that I set that up in my comic file. Okay. Alright, so now we are in Clip Studio, and we're going to go over a couple of different things of how it is that I'm setting up this whole thing here just before we get started. So if I go to my, let's see, if I go to my Story tab and I look at my project settings, this is basically my setup for what it is that I have. If any of you guys are comic artists and you have any feedback on how I'm setting this up, feel free to, but essentially what it is that I have it as is I have it at A4 size with a bleed width of 5mm and the resolution at 600. The number of pages will be 18, and the binding I set at the left. If you wanted to set it at the right, you could, but that would be basically the manga setting, right? And this is what it is that I get for that. I have my cover page. This is what it is that you see whenever you start up your comic page. Once it is that you've set your page limit and you know where it is that your cover page is and your back cover and whatnot, it lays all of this out for you. And if you need to create more pages, then you can basically select any of these pages, and you can go here and you can click on Story and you can say Add Page. And boom, it adds actually 2 more pages because it's taken into account the need to saddle stitch this book. So a lot of the times it's going to add 2 pages, right? So let's go ahead and let's take a look at the layout of what it is that I have so far, just to show you what it is that I'm doing. So in this first page, we have taken off where I left off on the first Golden Man comic. We have this shot of this man named George Baines who's showing up to the farmhouse. And at first I wanted to use this shot that we see here in the front panel, and then I've done a little bit of a sketch over. You know, I've put in a placeholder for George Baines, and then I've put in a placeholder for John and his children in front of this farmhouse here. But after that last shot it is that we got, I actually want to take that and use that instead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to File, and I'm going to Import Image. And then I have all these screenshots here on my page, and let's use this one. Now when I import it here, you can see that it is only staying within the parameters of this border that I've set up. And if you are new to Clip Studio, you will see that this image is not leaving this purple border that's around it, right? That is because of the border tool it is that I've used. And I'm going to show you that here in a second once I set this up. So I think this is a much better composition. I feel like this is a much stronger composition, right? It just looks, visually, it just looks more appealing. And so as far as the borders go, you have this tool here, and this is your border tool. And this border tool basically creates this border, right? So if I drag this over this open border, it creates a new one on top of this that I can see here on the bottom right-hand side. And I can turn that on and off. I can turn the white background on and off. And then, of course, I can delete it. But anything in this layer is where it is that I can draw, and it will only show up within that border. So Clip Studio is really good in that way, in the sense that it helps you organize your information pretty well. So now that I have this set up, now I can start to draw on top of this file. So I'm going to get rid of my old sketch, and I'm going to come back in here with another one. And I can just start thinking about, where do I want to place this? Where do I want to place these characters? And for the moment, just for the sake of this little video here, and not to go too far, I'm just going to drop in some basic shapes of where the characters are going to be. So we got George Baines, and then we have the two kids. And I'm just putting them right there. And on my first go around with this comic, the first thing it is that I want to do is I just want everything to be laid out specifically. And I know that in this panel, George Baines is asking, who are you? What do you want? So I'll put something like that, and so I have an idea of where these panels will go, right? So I have this here, and I have these characters here. And now you can see I've already done this on the rest of this page. Now we have a side view as George walks up to John and tries to shake his hand, but John is reluctant to shake his hand. And if I pull back out into the other pages, I'll show you what else it is that I have set up. All right, I have stuff like this. This is an argument between them. It's all very rough. The first time that I put everything down, I put stuff down that is very rough. It doesn't have to be exact. And you can see that I have some backgrounds back here with the 3D model. And this is basically just to set everything into motion. And then once everything is set into motion, then I start to sketch over it. And then once I've sketched over it, then I go back there and ink it. All right. So then now we're at this page, which was this is considered page 9. And that was where it is that I stopped today. So you can see some of the other layouts it is that I have here for the different pages and whatnot. Oops, sorry, scrolled in too quickly. And I'll be doing a follow-up video on all of this here pretty soon, but I just wanted to show that and show a little bit of the process. Like I said, this series of videos, I'm going to basically be taking you through my setup to my finish, and I'm also going to be showing how I organize my character designs and things along those lines. So I hope you guys like this video. If this is helpful, please drop a comment in the comment box below. Let me know if there's a specific thing it is that you would like for me to cover. I appreciate you guys for watching. Make sure to get your free comics in the description below, and you guys have a great day. Take it easy.